The Pentax 17, we're going to get off the hype train. We're going to talk about the pros and the cons. Let's get down to it. Now, before we kick things off, I'm not paid or sponsored by Pentax in any way, shape, or form. They did not send me the camera to keep. It's actually from the distributor here in Singapore. This is an engineering sample, the same camera that the technician learned how to repair the cameras on, because they can repair the cameras in respective markets, which is very, very cool. So with that said, these are my thoughts and my thoughts only, but there is a sponsor for this video, and that is Miracle, and more about them in just a bit. So I am a big fan of film cameras. I collect a lot of them, Leica, Nikon, Mamiya. And so when Pentax announced that they were going to come out with a film camera, obviously 35mm, because I didn't think we were going to call it medium format. I had the 6.7, by the way. Love that camera, but it's just too big. I cannot wait to see what they come up with. I thought it was gonna be like K1000 LX. Yeah. Then when they showed the leaked images, ooh, that's different. You probably thought the same thing, don't lie. I know you did. But when I got it in my hands, I was like, it actually looks a lot better in person than it does in images. And you have to see it because of the angles, just the way that it's crafted. Even though it's a very lightweight camera, it's a budget camera. The champagne gray, sort of that pseudo titanium finish on the top and bottom. By the way, it's magnesium alloy. It's not titanium or brass or any sort of heavy metal. It's lightweight. It's magnesium alloy. The center is plastic. So it's a very easy pocketable camera. Not pocketable, but you can throw it into a bag. It looked really good. And I love the black and pseudo titanium finish, that contrast there. You Leica fans, you know what I'm talking about. That panda look, well, it kind of gives you that. Of course, you have your ISO dial on the top, your exposure dial, you've got your viewfinder, you've got your mode dial there, you've got your on and off switch and your advanced lever. But when you go around the camera, it's a sort of this amalgamation of various different Pentax cameras. So you've got this faux leather wrap right here, which you can take off, you can replace, you can put any color you want on there. I thought about doing like a brown or a green or a blue or a red, but it's not my camera, so I'm not gonna do it. This grip here is plastic, this kind of knurled feel touch here, so it's very easy to grab onto. When you go to the back of the camera though, it's got this diamond pattern. I don't know if you could put a wrap on top of that, not too sure. I'm gonna put a graphic here that kind of shows you all the Easter eggs. I saw this online. I don't know how true it is, but it looks to be legitimate. It's actually really cool. The camera is relatively simple to use. You're going to figure it out within 5 minutes or 10 minutes if you're used to film cameras. The light meter is inside the lens here. So you're going to see a little light meter there. And that sends a signal to the back of the camera to the viewfinder. So we've got 2 LED lights there that you're going to see. And I'll show you how that looks. And that'll let you know if the lens cap is on, if you haven't advanced the advanced lever for the next frame, if you're waiting for the flash to recharge. It kind of gives you warnings throughout, lower battery, all those kind of things, which is nice. I don't have the instruction manual, but I hear it's not the best manual out there. So you should get an idea of how it works relatively easy. Rewinding the film is manual. There's no auto rewind on this. You just press this button right here at the bottom of the camera here, press that inside. Then you just start rewinding the camera, turn it around like that. Then when you're done, you'll feel the tension release on the reel, the door opens, and there you have it. It's very simple, guys. If you use a film camera, you know exactly how this rolls. Now, in terms of the viewfinder here, what you see through the lens is not what you're gonna see in the viewfinder. The viewfinder has 2 sets of frame lines, one for macro, one for standard. This is going to be a challenge for some photographers out there who are not used to zone focusing. And what is zone focusing? Basically, you're going to set the camera to a focal distance based on the aperture and the focal distance to see what's in focus. So you have icons and you have numbers at the bottom of this lens. Mountain, infinity. You got 3 people there. If you can fit 3 people inside your frame lines, you're in focus. 2 people, 1 person, fork and spoon, because it's not necessarily macro, but it's closer than being from 1 person. And then you have a flower for macro. That's how you sort of gauge the distance from your subject to the camera. And that's how you focus. I do wish it was more traditional in the sense that what you see through the lens, you could focus. It would make things a lot easier. It is what it is. With that said, you are going to make mistakes. I've got that t-shirt. It's hanging in my closet. You have 72 shots in this camera. Even if you make a mistake, you've got a lot more tries to get it right. I've shot a few rolls already, and some things have been, oh, that looks really good because the lens is glass. It's actually a pretty decent lens. And some things are like, yeah, I misfocused on that one completely. Throw that one away. The aperture on this is 3.5 and the focal length is 37mm if you're equating it to a 35mm frame. So that's going to be a nice, good street lens. But with 3.5, that means if you're going to be using, let's say, an ISO 200 film here, like this Harman Phoenix film, like this film, by the way, I like the colors, it's going to be very hard to use in lower light situations. Bright daylight, not a problem. Lower light indoors, if you got the flash, you're going to be okay. If you don't have the flash on, no bueno. 400 speed film. Now, I used 400 speed black and white film when I was at the Turf Club. the Singapore Turf Club here, capturing the jockeys and the horses and the people betting on the horses. And when you're under, in a covered tent or you're inside the building, it's going to be very, very difficult unless you use a flash. You're not allowed to use a flash there because of the horses. So that means 400 speed film, probably no bueno. Outdoors, not a problem. Indoors, no good. 800 speed film is where you're going to want to be at. Portrait 800, it's expensive. I know that. I bought a lot of it when it was cheaper. And man, it's expensive right now, but there's other options out there in 800 speed film. I would say this will be your baseline. You can go outdoors, you can go indoors, you're going to be okay. Now, the shutter speed on this is 1/350, 3.5 aperture. You can stop down the aperture and be okay. If you're going to go, let's say you're just going to be traveling, you're going on a trip, you're going to go, let's say to Europe, you're going to go inside castles and churches, you're going to go outside, walk around, you're going to want a versatile film. 800 speed is probably where you're going to want to be at with this, at least. If you're going to be indoors, may even want to go higher speed. So just keep that in mind. The image quality out of this camera, if you do get things in focus, it is really nice. I made a lot of mistakes. And there's one mistake in particular I made. Let's call it finger foreground. Before we get into that though, let's talk about today's sponsor, Miracle. Now, as you get older and you want to have a couple of drinks out with your friends, your family, your loved ones, waking up the next day may not be as easy as it used to be when we were in our early 20s. Because they say after 25 or 30, that metabolism that we have, the way that we can process alcohol in our bodies, it's not the same. That's where Miracle comes into play. Now, Miracle is from Sweden. It's an all-natural product that is made with L-cysteine and vitamin B12 with other various natural products inside of it to really sort of help metabolize that alcohol inside your liver, but also for better overall well-being, liver functionality, performance. You take this 2 hours before you have a drink. The next day you wake up, you're going to feel a lot better than if you did not have it. Obviously, drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive. Don't use any sort of heavy machinery when you're drinking. Always be safe. But if you want to wake up feeling a lot better than you normally would, that's where Miracle comes into play. So if you want to pick this up, you can pick it up here in Singapore at Guardian Pharmacies, or order it on Amazon as well, or check out your local retailer to see if they have it available. Do check it out. I've been using it for a while and I highly, highly recommend it. I wouldn't talk about something unless I use it, and I can stand by this. So with that, guys, thanks to Miracle for sponsoring this video. And now back to the Pentax 17. Finger foreground. What am I talking about? Let me show you some sample images real quick here. As you can see, there's not foreground that I wanted to have. It's foreground that happened to be there because of my finger. Here's the thing with this camera. Because you can't see what the lens sees, you don't know about these obstacles that come into play. And because there's really no sort of lens hood, you can screw a lens hood onto this. I've seen one, by the way. You can buy a third-party one. I tend to use two hands to hold a camera like this, right? I tend to do something like that. And when I do that, that finger might just get a little bit too close to the lens, and hence I get finger foreground. This camera is made to be used with one hand. Now, again, you want to hold two hands if you want to, turn it on and, advance the lever, two hands. Then once you're done, put that hand behind you and shoot this way, okay? You could do it with one hand, but it's a little bit cumbersome. You got to cock that pretty far. But yeah, it's something to take note of on that. I'm here to review the camera and to let you know the pros and the cons. And when I make mistakes, I will tell you guys. This finger, no good. Hand behind and shoot accordingly, okay? That's one thing. Another thing is this mode dial here. See this mode dial? Well, this mode dial is very easy to turn. Very easy to turn. And if you're putting this into a bag or a backpack, or maybe just walking around with it, you can knock this out of your setting easily. And I've done that a few times as well. I've gone to bulb mode and I'm like, okay, why are things not working correctly? It's not where I want it to be. So I wish there was a lock. There is no lock on this camera for that. It's unfortunate. Maybe they will improve that in another version down the road, but it is what it is. Outside of that though, those are probably the only two things. Again, I wish you could focus through the lens and see it in the viewfinder. The frame lines are great. It's very bright to see all the icons inside of this, even in lower light situations. I think Pentax has done a great job with this, but obviously zone focusing, I just wish you could make it a little bit more traditional and see through the lens, but that's just me personally. Outside of that though, I've really enjoyed this camera. I think it's cool. It's fun. It's been a talking point. This is Pentax's X106. This is their camera. It's getting a lot of buzz out there in the marketplace. Everyone I passed this camera to is excited to see it. When I first had it, I was one of the first people in Singapore to have this camera. People were just stopping me to say, can I just take a photo of the camera itself? Which you don't normally see that happen nowadays with cameras, but you were seeing that with the Pentax 17. And it's just a really nice camera to have. And the price point is really attainable. I think Pentax overall has done a fantastic job in terms of making the camera perform good enough for the price point, but at the same time, it's got a great look. It stands out amongst all the other cameras out there, and I've grown to really enjoy using it. Now, I just need to get better at zone focusing, and when I do, I'm going to be very, very happy with the images that I get out of this. 72 images are going to maximize the price of film, which I think is going to be great for a lot of newbies out there who just want to get into film, but they don't want to spend a bomb on it. This is something to take in consideration. And also, this camera can be repaired. People can say, well, I can buy an LX, or I can buy an MX, or I can buy, a K1000, it's going to be cheaper than this. Yes, but if the camera breaks down, where are you going to get it repaired at? Because not everybody has Pentax parts. And if they don't have it, you have to send it off to Japan or to another country to get it repaired, and that can cost you a few bucks. But with something like this, there's a warranty to it, and Pentax can repair these, and that will be an awesome, awesome convenience for you. So guys, film is here to stay. It may be more of a niche thing for a lot of people out there, but there is a romanticism. There is something beautiful about shooting film and getting excited to see those images being developed and seeing what's in focus and seeing what's not and seeing what looks great and see how you can improve. It just makes photography even more fun, and I think this camera adds to that in spades. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on the Pentax 17. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you have this camera, love to hear your feedback on it. If you don't, you have any questions, I'll try to answer those for you. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. More content on the way. Thanks again for the support, and I'll chat to you soon.